This is Morten from INKISH, and though I am not in my own hemisphere and back in Europe, I got the opportunity to talk to Steve, who is the president for Fujifilm. Is it Dimatix? It's called, or yeah,
Fujifilm Dimatix, right?
Yeah, and you're basically responsible for the business unit about printheads, inkjet printheads. So welcome to INKISH. Great to see you.
Great, thank you, Morten. I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you. I was just about to say that it must be one of the most exciting jobs in the industry you have right now. I mean, everybody's talking about inkjet. It doesn't make your job harder these days, does it?
Well, first of all, you're right. I think this is the most fun job. Uh, you know, coming here to Dymatics, I've known about Dymatics for a really long time. Great technology, great to see under the covers. Coming in, there were some things that surprised me. One of them was how complicated these products are and how much technology goes into the design and the manufacturing and the quality assurance. It blew me away. And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm an engineer by training, and so I get
Oh, okay.
totally jazzed with all the technology. Of course, there's a lot of cool, fun stuff we do on the business side as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could pick a better job.
I'm almost jealous of you. I like my job too, but I'm almost jealous of you. But I would say that I do understand, especially with an engineering background, that you must be fascinated because I mean, every time I see a printhead, I don't even understand how ink can come out of it. I mean, it's so tiny drops, it's so fine mechanics and pumps and electronics that actually makes this possible. I mean, as an engineering, do you have like a background in understanding these kind of things, or are you also learning on that level?
Well, it's a little bit of both, right? With all good jobs, you bring something to the table, but you're also learning every day. And this is absolutely that case. I'm a chemical engineer by training and did a lot of fluidics. So that part is, a good compliment. But understanding what goes in to make a printhead, you're 100% right. Sometimes it's easy to think about printheads. What do we do? We're a fancy pump. That's what we are. We're a fancy pump that can pump out tiny little increments of fluid down to a couple of picoliter and place them within microns of where these dots are supposed to
Yeah.
go. But in the end, we're a pump. So how hard can it be? Well, there is so much behind the curtain that it is something that I enjoy learning from the team so much. They've got this great legacy of technology behind us, and the team continues to innovate. And being part of that is really it's what gets me up in the morning.
And following up on that, one thing is that you have the team. I think also, I mean, I don't know if I'm right, but I think maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, or you can vouch for what I'm saying. I was just thinking that because Fujifilm is also, I mean, I think some people see Fujifilm as a conservative company, Japanese conservative company. But I think in this case, that is absolutely not bad because that means that Fujifilm as a company also have the patience and the time for doing the right investments and investing in the right people. So that is like the one thing I wanted to say. The other thing I see when I follow a little bit on LinkedIn and also the media, it seems that Fujifilm is investing a lot of money in both engineering but also in technology companies that can support the future of your inkjet journey. Am I right
I
on these
100% agree with
sayings?
you. It's easy to categorize companies as conservative or aggressive or whatever. First of all, I think big companies like Fujifilm are way too complicated to give a single characterization to. And
I agree.
I think here at Fujifilm Dimatix, we're a great case of where you do not make MEMS printheads without a fantastic investment. And so it took a great investment to get into it, and then a continued investment as we upgrade our tooling, go to the next generation of tools, next generation of process that can make even better printheads. Each one of those steps, we're not talking a couple of $1,000,000. We're talking tens of and hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not a conservative company that makes an investment like that. So, I would not characterize Fujifilm's attitude towards Dynamics as being conservative.
Okay. I then I have to correct myself when I say conservative. I mean it in a positive way, saying that you have the time for making long-term investments. Because I think that sometimes if you have like too much of like a return on investment with too short spans, then you also maybe sometimes go for the shorter and the faster solution. So that was just to get that correct. That I don't think in a negative way anything that is what I'm saying here. I can't help think about, because I mean, when you do, I mean, of course, inkjet has been around. I read on Wikipedia that actually the first inkjet heads were produced in '53, and it came as a surprise to me that the technology is that old actually. And of course, the technology was, I mean, entirely different back in '50s and
Totally.
has evolved a lot over the time. And if you look at the latest iterations of and revolutions of the printhead technology today, and the investments that is put into it, I was just thinking that is it when you produce the printhead, do you produce them with such a volume that it can be like, industrialized production? I was just thinking it is such a small niche still that I was just thinking I can hardly believe that should be handmade, but how are they actually manufactured?
Yeah. So, first of all, the technology from 1950s totally different. I even think back to my first inkjet printer I bought in 1994. It was a color HP DeskJet, and I was just blown away. I could print stuff from my computer, and I think about what that technology represented and where we are today. It is night and day. And look, it's been 30 years. Is it? That's not a long time for a technology
No.
completely revolutionized printing. So, from that regard, it's been around for a while, but it's really just the last, say, decade or two that it has completely changed, I think, the marketplace. Now, as far as how they're made, you're right that from a volume perspective, you have to treat this like a sophisticated operation. This is not a craft, right? There's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into it, but the
Of
operation
course.
is very much an advanced operation. You would walk through our factory.
Yeah, it needs to be like I mean, because I mean, the as we spoke about in the beginning, if you look at it, looked more like a
Exactly.
computer chip rather than something that is ink related, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. We've got the full bunny suits on, and we're in class 10, class 100 type clean rooms. So um, it is very much a sophisticated operation, and both from the technical side, what it takes to put these things together, but also operationally. I give full credit to our operations team and our operators, our technicians. These guys are fundamental to putting these printheads together. There's still a fair bit of manual labor that goes
Oh,
into
really? Okay.
very sophisticated tooling and fixturing. But it's both high tech and it relies on people at the end of the day.
Fantastic. It's funny that you mentioned that it's a 30 years old technology. It's funny because, as you know as well as I do, we always think of the industry that we are in as an old industry because we always refer back to Gutenberg, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually funny because if you look at some of the more, like, let's say, big players in the market today in the offset field, also in the digital field. Some of them started in photo, also like Fujifilm. Some started in let's say letter offset and things like
Right.
that. But the industry, when it comes to the revolution of print, is maybe just 100 years old, right?
That's right.
And then it's still funny to think of
Yep.
that inkjet has been around even on that scale that you spoke about for 30 years. So when you see that, and when I asked you whether it was a fun job that you have taken on, I take also that this is just the beginning. What is the sky the limit, or where do
Yeah.
you see things going?
You reminded me of a friend of mine, a consultant in the industry who goes way back, and he said, I was working in labels. We were building really the world's first industrial inkjet label printer. It was a Jetran at EFI, and it was going slow. It was not. We were getting like 3, 4, 5% adoption rate, and I was waiting. Why isn't this happening? And the consultant said, "Come on, slow down. Think about when," and this of course predates me, but when letterpress was overtaken by offset, it was a transition of 40, 50 years. And then,
Yeah, minimum, I would say. Yeah.
yeah, and then you look in the
Yeah.
label side, eventually offset was displaced by flexo. That was another 40, 50 year process. So he said, don't worry, inkjet will do it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And I think on those time scales, inkjet's actually doing pretty good. I think we're right now, what I see happening in multiple markets, of course, ceramics, it already happened. And I'd say wide format graphics, it's already happened. And then there are other markets that are really starting to take off. And soon we're going to see packaging go that route. And when that happens, commercial and packaging, that's when we will say the transition's happening.
Nico Ponte said that everything that can be digital will be digital. That is, of course, a little bit of a saturated term, but still, I think it's great because when we look at the technology and the advantages the technology has to the printer and to the customer, and basically to maybe everybody except the offset printing guys. I was just about to say that do you think that eventually all the, let's say, limitations that we still see in, let's say, water-based ink and the speed and drying and substrates like that will eventually will eventually be able to replace analog print entirely?
I would like to think so. I think there's always the tail of the distribution. And there are places where conventional presses are just, advantage. If you're going to print, 10 million Budweiser labels, okay, that may not make sense for digital today. And the other thing is, if you look at what the analog press manufacturers have done to prolong the life of these devices, and the quick changeovers, zero time changeovers, it is really impressive. What the engineering that they put into it, and it's great competition, right? We keep fighting it out. They'll keep making their analog presses better and better. But of course, we think digital will also get better and better. So at some point, you'll see more and more jobs, of course, move over to digital. Whether 100% ever move, we'll see.
Yeah, and that is, of course, also driven because, as you say yourself, if the demand for, down to products of one, it needs to be digital. If it's like very short runs, it can also always be like a crossover on what technologies are better. I remember I spoke to a company from Israel that you know very well, that they were talking about that their technology, even on the toner-based technologies, could become much faster. So, I think that this competition that you talk about is healthy because it keeps us all on the toes to develop things that are right for the markets we serve, right?
Absolutely. And it was that company that, of course, we were competing with back in the Jetreon days. And absolutely, it set a bar that inkjet, it was a strain for inkjet to hit that bar. Now, with Samba and some of the system integration that our customers are doing, I think the time has come where inkjet can reach that bar.
It's funny that you just mentioned Samba because I know that you do more types of printheads, of course. But Samba, I think in the graphics arts industry, is probably the most well-known as a brand kind of thing, right? But one thing I was not aware of, and that was your colleague Ron Gilboa that told me about, and said that basically, as laymen and as an industry, we think of Samba as like one printhead, but there's actually iterations within a printhead, right? So it's not just like one printhead, basically, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's really the Samba family, and it's going to be a family with many generations. We've got some great technology coming out. Some new coatings that make this printhead just really bulletproof. That we can tolerate so many different types of fluids, and then we've got more ideas on how we can make it even better. So Samba's a product that from a naming perspective we'll keep using because it's so well known. But it has, even in just the last 10 years, the Samba of today is not like the Samba of 10 years ago, and it gets better with every generation, every change that we make, and we've got more stuff coming.
And it's funny, maybe you didn't even think about it back then, at least you didn't do and I didn't do, but Samba is, I think, relating to something that is really like fun and party, and as a family from like the music part of thing, maybe a very good name to keep going,
Yeah.
because I mean, this I think it's related to something positive,
Hmm.
right? So a good name, I would say. One of the things because as you said, you have a background as an engineering. You said chemicals, right?
Hmm.
I was just wondering because I did an interview with a guy called Tree from Trijet in the UK. You may know him. He's a consultant specifically interested in the dynamics of the inks. What is more important, the printheads or the inks,
Yeah.
if you really want to achieve something that
Yeah.
is on the upper level?
I will give you the honest answer that I've given for the last 10 years. Ink is the most important thing. Ink is it. And as much as, the printhead is the heart, but the ink is the blood, right?
Mm,
And so
mm,
you can't live without either one of those. But I remember back in my old days, when I was working with teams and we were developing products, I firmly believe you start with the ink. And the ink is the thing that finally gets passed on to your customer, to the final
mm.
customer. And so
And
focusing on the ink, and then you pick the printed technology that works best for the ink. Obviously, I hope it's Dimatix, and we're doing everything in our power to make sure that's the choice every time. But yeah, I think
of
ink is
course.
critical.
The reason why I mentioned him was because he said to me, and as I'm neither an engineer or a chemist, one of the things he said to me that was a little bit of surprise, because I think there's a few mega trends when we talk inkjet today. There's either the UV based or the water based, as if we take at least two of the major things that people are talking about. And he basically said it's kind of funny that everybody's talking about water, because water is a very bad, let's say, container for the pigments that you want to deliver, because you need to vaporize it, and it's actually quite difficult to vaporize it without interfering too much with the substrates. Is that something that you agree with him on that, or?
Well, I would defer to the printer manufacturers and what they wrestle with. Going back to my old days, for decades, I did work on printers. And yeah, I
Mm,
can agree with that. That drying of water in particular is a challenge, and
mm,
I think it has presented challenges to people that are developing water-based printers. But I don't think it's unsurmountable. I think people have figured that out, and I think people will continue to find better ways to do it. But so aqueous, yeah, if I look at the market, aqueous is going to continue to play a bigger and bigger role, I would guess.
fantastic. Let's move a little bit ahead, Steve. Dymatics as a Fujifilm division. Tell us a little bit, what is the company? How many people, and where are you located, and where do you produce? And I mean, your customers are not like me and printers, right? It is that is more like industrial customers, right?
Yeah, so we're a B2B business. We sell our product to people that run their own businesses and then sell their product to end customers, who then sell their product to even further down the road. So very much a B2B business. We've, from for locations, we're throughout the world. We've got, a great team in China, for example. We've got a service center in China. China is an important market for us. We've got development centers here in New Hampshire, where I am right now, and also, of course, in Santa Clara, where our MEMS fab, and we've got another R&D development team out there. So yeah, we're not a huge company, several hundreds of people, but we definitely are global, and both from a footprint perspective and certainly from a customer base perspective.
As being new in the company and being responsible for the company in more like an overall position, where do you see how will your role influence the future of Dymatics?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, when you come in from the outside, and me coming in, I was a customer, right? And so I bring a very different perspective, right? Often when we're in meetings and we're debating trade-offs, I'm talking like the guy that's working on the printing press, right? So I think that is valuable in and of itself, right? That I just bring a different perspective that can help, just round out the team a little bit better. It's also useful to have a new guy come in and just, see things. If you've done the same things the same way for 10 years, you kind of get stuck. It's natural.
I mean, I think it's called snowblind, right? I mean, because you see all your own advantages and sometimes it's difficult to see your disadvantages. So you have fresh eyes. Sometimes it gets a little bit clearer, even for the people that are in the organization for many years, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and it goes both ways. Sometimes, um, I'm a huge believer in Dimatix printheads. That's why I came here, and I will say that that certainly people on the engineering side don't always know how good our stuff is, right?
Mm.
And bringing that customer perspective and knowing how important it is to have high quality, really high performance, consistent
Mm.
performance. Those types of things are so important when you're developing a printer around a printhead that,
Mm.
I can bring that feedback to the team here and, just gives them a new bit of energy when they think about, they're doing really hard jobs. It's going to pay off in the end.
Mm. I can't help think about that. I mean, if you look at the inkjet industry for like in a very broad perspective, I think quite a few of the high-end technology companies are interested in this market because everybody can see that it goes in this direction. So I believe the competition has get a little tougher over the last 10 years. Do you think there will be a need for you also? I mean, Fujifilm is well known. Samba is well known. Your division company is maybe not so well known as a broad brand, but do you think there will be a need for you to position yourself also as a more like a brand, so have people have an awareness? I don't know how it is when it comes to picking the printheads, but I can tell you that one of the things I've been surprised about in the label segment, for example, is often that you buy a label press and then you pick between two, three different UV dryers, for example,
Mm.
right? And I was just thinking, if you want to stay on top of the game, I guess that you will probably not like too much that people buy a printer and then they pick whatever printhead they want. I mean, you have to keep
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
relevance to the market, right?
So I think the question you're asking, is there a risk of printheads becoming commoditized in the near
See,
future?
that is why I'm so jealous of you, because you have English as your native tongue. I have to find my words and try to understand what I'm talking
No,
about here.
but your
Thank
question's
you,
a
Steve.
really,
Thank you very
really
much.
good one. And, the short answer is no, I don't think printheads are going to be commoditized anytime
Mm.
soon. When you see the amount of technology that goes into one of these things, not just, how to make it, but the decades of work that goes to designing them, creating the fundamental models and understanding of what are we trying to do here, and then making it a
Mm.
reality in the product. That is a 10-year horizon,
Mm.
a massive investment. And then you talk about the
Mm.
investments to get into the manufacturing side, another huge investment, both in
Mm.
people and in capital. So those are both big barriers to commoditization. And I think,
Sorry to interrupt you. I don't think that I was thinking of commoditization as such. I was thinking like, let's say that Fujifilm. I can tell you what I was thinking once, and maybe I'm totally wrong. I was thinking when I saw the Fujifilm 720 and 750, for example. Let's just application printers, right? I saw them as probably some of the printers in the market with the highest visual quality in every segment, right? But I was sometimes thinking, because I don't see them as a volume printer compared to some of the other brands in the market. So I was sometimes thinking, is this more like demonstration models to show off the print heads, to be honest, right? And I know that you probably would like to make money on all the things, but what I was thinking is that if you look at some of the big manufacturers that are maybe customers today, maybe they have taken advantage of your development, your investments, your market approach, and now they get so big that they say, okay, now it's time for us to develop our own technologies. Right? That was what I was
I see. I see. Well, I
looking
mean,
into. Yeah, yeah.
it could always happen if someone has a really long time horizon and they're willing to invest 10, 15 years.
Mm.
Of
Mm.
course, they can give it a shot. Now,
Mm.
as they're trying to catch up,
So you're ready for competition. That's what you
well,
say,
that's
right?
the thing. I had
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
stop in my office. What is the end game? Well, our
Mm.
core competency, our advantage, is to keep moving ahead.
Mm.
And we've got some great products today. We intend to keep moving them
Mm.
further into the future. And that is going to be our competitive advantage. So,
Mm.
yeah, of course, if someone really wants to invest a lot of time and money, we can compete in any market.
Mm.
But knowing what goes into it, I think it would take an incredible commitment to get here.
So let me revert to my question, which I didn't phrase very well. I will try it again. Do you think you, as a company, as a division of Fujifilm, will need to become more of a brand where you market and spend more money on communicating with your audience and your customers, so you end up in a situation that people see Samba head as in itself as a value when you invest in one of your partners' technologies?
Yeah, first off, to a first order, our best marketing is our customers. And when they're successful, we're successful. And when they make a great product that succeeds in the market, and people look under the covers and they see an SG 1024 or a Samba, and they know it's Dimatix, that is the best marketing. That is the best advertisement we could ask for. And so, first order, we work with our customers. And by making them successful, our long-term success is assured. That being said, yeah, when we have a good story to tell, we want to get out there and tell it. You know, I didn't know everything about Dimatix technology when I came here. I'll give you an example. One of the really impressive things is our sputtered PZT that goes on to Samba and now Skyfire. It is really unique, and it's taken.
And what is it?
Yeah, so it's our thin film piezo. So
Okay.
piezoelectric crystals, of course, to drive the pressure waves that go through the fluid to get the droplets out. Well, the way that we build our thin film PZT is fundamentally different than the way that other people do it. And as a result, we get printhead life that is just mind-boggling. I was just out in Santa Clara last week. We were talking about experiments where we tried to prove the life of our Samba printhead. We got to 1.8 trillion drops. 1.8 times 10 to the 12th drops. And we stopped the test because it was just going forever. Yeah. So stories like that, I do think there's an opportunity for us to talk about because
and you just told it now, so I mean at least more people will know about it in a moment, right?
Good.
No, truly great. I think that the great thing and the reason why I reached out to you is I was curious to get to know you a little bit more, and I was also curious about the competition. I think that Fujifilm and your printheads are I won't say dominating because I think that is a negative word, but I think that it's seen in some of the best technology and applications in the world. So I think it's great, and I think it's actually truly great to have both an engineer and as also a print customer as the captain of the ship, because I think that is sometimes what is needed, that you have people with hands-on and domain knowledge steering a boat like the Dimatix Fujifilm thing. So, Steve, I want to just because we're running into our half hour now. I think it's been truly great talking to you, and I think I hope to see you soon. And I just want to thank you very much for taking time to talk to me here. That was really great.
Great, thank you, Morten. I enjoyed it as well, and I trust we'll see each other soon.
I hope so. Okay, thank you.